Her wine glass had lipstick on it, but she hadn't touched it in 20 minutes. I know because I kept staring at it. It sat there, glowing under the chandelier, half full, like some lazy metaphor I was too tired to make sense of. The chair beside it was empty, still warm when I finally walked over. She was across the room. I could see her through the crowd. Not clearly, just flashes of red fabric and her fingers brushing through her hair like they did when she was flirting. She leaned in too close to a guy with slicked back hair and a jaw like a brick. He was laughing. She touched his wrist. That's the thing about rooftop parties. There's no ceiling to keep your thoughts from floating up and turning into rage. I stood alone near the back bar, the one no one was using. Even the bartender looked surprised I asked for water. It was supposed to be her big night. She told me that. Everyone will be there. Don't make it weird. I promised I wouldn't. I showed up, shaved, wore the blazer she always said made me look less apologetic. I thought maybe we'd arrive together. But she texted me the address at 7:42 with a casual, "I'm already here." I took a cab, $34 and a silent driver who kept sniffing. The room was warm with money. Leather chairs, hanging lights, champagne towers like someone Googled modern decadence and printed it out. I walked in and she didn't even notice. Not the first 10 minutes. Not the second 10. Not even when I passed right behind her, hoping for that magnetic pull couples are supposed to have, where they just know the other person is there. Nothing. She was laughing, smiling like it was oxygen. And I was standing in the corner, counting how many people shook my hand. 1. The valet guy. Because I tipped him too much. That was the moment I knew something broke. Not loud. Not violent. Not even sharp. Just cracked. I left before dessert. I didn't even say goodbye. And 5 minutes after the Uber door clicked shut behind me, my phone lit up. Her text read, "Are you seriously gone?" That was all. No question mark, even. Just deadpan. But what happened after that? That's where things really spiral. I stared at that text for a full minute, like it was supposed to mean something more than it said. Are you seriously gone? I don't know what I expected. Maybe a sorry. Maybe a where are you? Something with punctuation, at least. But that was it. No emoji. No explanation. Just this weird, passive accusation like I'd committed a crime by leaving her party early. I didn't answer. I just put my phone face down on the passenger seat and sat in the driveway for a while, staring at the dark windows of our house. It looked like no one lived there. No lights, no life. Just silence waiting to judge me. I didn't go inside right away. I just sat there, thinking about that wine glass, the empty chair, her dress, that guy's hand on her lower back, like it belonged there. And her just letting it happen. Like I wasn't even real. Like I was some sad hallucination showing up where I wasn't wanted. I didn't cry. Not yet. I'm not even sure I was mad. Just hollow. Like someone pressed pause on my life and forgot to hit play again. 10 minutes later, another message came in. You could have at least said goodbye. That one broke something in me. I actually laughed, out loud, right there in the dark. A short, bitter kind of laugh. The kind you do when your brain runs out of ways to keep you from falling apart. Because what was I supposed to say goodbye to? To her back? To her silence? To the version of her I used to know but hadn't seen all night? I typed and deleted 6 different replies. Some angry, some desperate, one that just said, "Why did you even want me there?" But I didn't send any of them. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing I was still unraveling. So I walked inside. The house was cold. She must have turned the heat off before she left. There was a note on the kitchen counter. Not for me. Just a grocery list. Almond milk. Bananas. Rice cakes. The kind of things you write when your life is normal. Routine. Loveless. I didn't sleep in our bed that night. I couldn't. Her perfume was still on the pillow, and it made me nauseous. So I took a blanket, went downstairs, and laid on the couch like a guest in my own life. I checked her location around 1:30 a.m. Still at the party. At 2:11 a.m., it disappeared. By 3:02, she still wasn't home. I wasn't even shocked. Just numb. When I finally heard the garage door open at 3:40, I didn't move. I kept my eyes shut and pretended to be asleep. She walked past me without saying a word. No whisper. No check-in. No guilt. Just the quiet sound of her heels clicking on the hardwood, like a gavel in a courtroom where I'd already been sentenced. But if I'd known what I was going to find on her phone later that week, I never would have let her walk past me that night. She didn't lock her phone that morning. That's how I knew something was wrong. Janelle was the kind of person who locked everything. Her suitcase had a code. Her laptop required facial recognition. She wouldn't even let me look at her notes app because she claimed it had gift ideas I wasn't supposed to see. But that morning, as she got ready for work like nothing happened, her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and the screen lit up. No Face ID, no passcode, just open. It wasn't like her, and she never left it behind, either. But today she did. She left it charging in the bedroom while she went to make coffee. She probably thought I was still asleep on the couch. I wasn't. At first, I hesitated. I really did. My heart was pounding, palms sweaty. I told myself, don't look. Be better than that. But another part of me whispered, she doesn't care about your feelings. Why protect hers? So I picked it up. And what I found wasn't even shocking. Not really. Just confirming the thing I'd already felt in my bones. The slow erosion of trust, of intimacy, of whatever made us feel like us. There were no sexts. No full-on love letters. Nothing explicit. But the messages with Chase, her boss, were weird. A lot of winks. A lot of late-night timestamps. Things like, can't stop thinking about your presentation smirking face. You always know what to say, LOL. Last night was wild. Let's not get caught faced with tears of joy. That one stopped me cold. What the hell did last night mean? It could have meant the party. Sure. But it didn't feel innocent. And when I scrolled back, I found pictures, not scandalous, but intimate in a way that made my stomach flip. A boomerang of her sticking her tongue out beside him in a car. A selfie of the two of them at what looked like a bar, time-stamped 2 weeks ago, on a night she told me she was working late. A voice memo of her laughing. Laughing like I hadn't heard her laugh in months. And the worst part? I realized this was the cleaned-up version. This was the phone she left behind. The one with no password. She wanted me to see it. Or at least, she didn't care if I did. That hit harder than any affair could have. Because cheating is one thing. But this was indifference. She wasn't trying to hide the erosion anymore. She was just letting the walls rot. I dropped the phone like it burned. I didn't even hear her come back into the room. You're up early, she said casually, sipping her coffee like she hadn't just detonated the last piece of my self-worth. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Not yet. Because I needed to be sure. I needed more than crumbs. So I smiled, fake, tight, and said, yeah, didn't sleep great. She didn't even ask why. She just grabbed her phone off the charger, hummed some pop song on her way out the door, and told me to feed the cat she forgot we had. But I wasn't thinking about the cat. I was thinking about how I could finally catch her without giving her a reason to run. I didn't go to work the next day. I just called in and said I was sick, which wasn't entirely a lie. My stomach felt like it was full of gravel, and I hadn't eaten anything but half a slice of cold toast. Every time I thought about Chase, that stupid name, my jaw clenched so hard it gave me a headache. Janelle left around 8:15 a.m. wearing the same perfume she wore the night of the party. It used to be my favorite scent in the world. Now it just felt like a warning. She kissed me on the cheek as she left, like she always did. But it felt staged. Like she was performing our marriage for security cameras that didn't exist. As soon as the door closed, I opened my laptop and started digging. Not through her files. Not yet. Through mine. I pulled up our shared calendar. Looked for patterns. Cross-referenced days she said she had team meetings or client dinners with the messages I'd seen on her phone. I started building a list. Her lies stacked like bricks. She was out late on March 3rd, March 10th, April 2nd. All nights, she'd told me she was exhausted from work. I also started doing something I'm not proud of. I began testing her. Small things at first. I moved a book from her nightstand to the guest room. She didn't mention it. I deleted a playlist she listened to at the gym. Nothing. I even put an old photo of us, the one from our first road trip, back on the fridge. She walked right past it 3 times and didn't say a word. She was drifting away, and I was trying to build anchors out of scraps. I thought about following her. Like, actually driving behind her car one night. I even checked Google to see if Apple AirTags worked well for that sort of thing. But I stopped myself. Not because I was afraid to be creepy. I think I'd already crossed that line emotionally. But because I realized something worse. I didn't want proof. I wanted her to admit it. To say it out loud. To let me be angry for a reason. Because right now, I was angry at shadows. At screenshots. At long pauses and half-truths, and the way she smiled at her phone more than she smiled at me. That night, she came home late again. Said traffic was bad. I didn't argue. I just asked, how's Chase? She froze. Just for a second. but I saw it. Then she smiled. Too wide. What do you mean? Just wondering, I said, pretending to scroll my phone. You talk about him a lot. She shrugged, went to the kitchen, and poured herself a glass of wine. Not the cheap stuff we both used to share on lazy weekends. The good bottle we'd been saving since New Year's. She didn't offer me any. And then she did something that nearly made me drop my phone. She started humming. That same dumb pop song she sang the morning before. But this time, I realized where I'd heard it. It was the song playing in the background of that bar selfie. The one with Chase. The timestamp was 2 weeks ago. My hands went cold. She wasn't just forgetting her lies. She was reliving them. Right in front of me. I told her I was going to a poker night with the guys. I don't even have guys. But she didn't question it. She barely looked up from her phone when I said it. Just nodded and mumbled something about having a late Zoom call with her New York team. It was a Friday. That same Friday she'd been swamped the last 2 weeks in a row. So I waited until she left the house first. Purse slung over her shoulder. Heels clicking like she was walking into a courtroom again, not a conference call. She left at 7:12 p.m. By 7:30, I was parked 4 blocks away with the engine off and my stomach turning. I watched her building from a distance. Her office lights were on. That part was real. I saw her silhouette in the window, pacing, talking, probably warming up her voice for Chase. Maybe deciding if tonight was just drinks, or if she was going to finally cross whatever line she hadn't already crossed. I hated myself for being there. But I also hated the alternative, sitting home like a coward while she smiled through another lie. So I waited. For 2 hours. She didn't leave. Around 9:45, I got out of the car and walked. Not to her office, but to the diner across the street. One of those old places with the flickering neon sign and laminated menus that haven't been updated since 2006. I sat in the booth by the window, facing the entrance to her building. Ordered fries and a Coke I didn't touch. At 10:17, she finally came out. She wasn't alone. Chase was with her. Jacket slung over his shoulder like he was in a commercial for whiskey, or cologne, or betrayal. They weren't holding hands, but they didn't have to. The space between them was already too familiar. They stood there under the street lamp, talking. She touched his arm. He leaned in like he was going to kiss her, and I swear to God, she smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. It wasn't a flirty smile. It was soft, intimate, like they shared a secret. I didn't take a picture. I just watched, because I wanted to know how far she'd go. But here's the thing. They didn't kiss. At least not there. Not in public. After a few seconds, they hugged. Long, slow, and she pulled away first. Then they walked in opposite directions. She turned the corner. He lit a cigarette and stared at the street like he was in a French movie. And I just sat there, in that booth. Cold fries, warm Coke, 1,000 thoughts buzzing in my head like a swarm. Was that enough? Was that the proof I'd been looking for? Because somehow, it didn't feel like a win. It didn't feel like closure. It felt like someone carved a hollow into my chest and poured static into it. By the time I got home, she was already in bed, pretending to sleep, same as I used to. I stood in the doorway and just looked at her for a long time. Her back was to me, breathing slow, steady, like the guilt hadn't even grazed her. And maybe it hadn't. Maybe this was her normal now. So I did something stupid. I asked her a question I already knew the answer to. How was your meeting? She rolled over, half asleep, voice low and casual. Boring. Just the usual. And just like that, with 5 little words, she confirmed it. Because that lie, that one was for me. The next morning, I made her breakfast. Pancakes, strawberries, almond milk cappuccino with cinnamon dusted on top, the way she liked it, back when she still pretended to like me. She blinked at the plate like it was a trap. Maybe it was. What's this for? She asked, wrapping the robe tighter around her body. I shrugged. Just felt like doing something nice. She narrowed her eyes, then smiled. That thin, guarded smile people use when they know there's a hook beneath the bait. She ate anyway. We didn't talk much. Just the clinking of silverware and the occasional "these are good," or "we need more syrup." I nodded along, pretending we were still normal. Pretending I hadn't watched her hug another man under a street lamp the night before. After she left for work, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at her empty coffee cup. There was a faint imprint of her lip gloss on the rim. It made me sick. That's when I printed the photos. Not many, just 3. Screenshots, mostly. The bar selfie. The voice memo metadata. The message that said, "Last night was wild. Let's not get caught faced with tears of joy. I didn't highlight anything, didn't annotate, just printed them and slid them into a plain white envelope. I left it on the counter. Not hidden, not dramatic, just there, like a bill or a quiet question. And then I left the house. I didn't go far, just sat in my car around the block, engine off, counting my breaths, watching the clock. It was the first time in weeks I felt like I had control over anything. She got home around 6:40. She didn't call, didn't text. At 6:53, the front door opened. From my spot across the street, I saw her walk in. She didn't notice the envelope right away. She went to the fridge first, poured a glass of wine. At 6:56, she saw it. She picked it up, turned it over, opened it, and froze. Even from that distance, I could tell. Her whole body stiffened. Her hand went to her mouth, not in shock, but in calculation. You could almost see the gears turning behind her eyes. Then she sat down. For a long time, she didn't move. She didn't cry, didn't throw the pages away. She just sat there, staring at them like they were a puzzle she hadn't realized she was part of. And then, she did something I didn't expect. She picked up her phone and started typing. I waited for the notification, waited to hear that ping. Nothing came. Instead, I watched her walk upstairs, envelope still in her hand. 15 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. Still no text. I checked the tracking app I'd quietly installed on her phone the week before. I'm not proud of that either, but this isn't a story about pride. Her location didn't move. She was still home, still upstairs. At 8:17, I finally walked in. The house was quiet, too quiet. Her shoes were by the door, her wine glass half empty on the counter. And the envelope? Gone. So was she. Not out of the house, just gone from view. I stood there, heart hammering, waiting for the confrontation. But it never came. Not that night. She didn't speak to me, didn't knock on the door, didn't send a single word. She just went asleep. And I lay there in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life, or finally taken the first step towards saving it. And then, just as I was starting to drift off, she whispered, so soft I almost missed it. You really think you're the only one keeping secrets? I didn't answer her whisper. I just lay there, still as stone, staring into the dark like maybe it would blink first. You really think you're the only one keeping secrets? The words looped through my head like a cursed lullaby. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Not with her breathing steady beside me like she hadn't just dropped a grenade into my already shattered brain. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. Made herself eggs. Wore a blue blouse I hadn't seen in months. Left the house with a smile so convincing, I almost believed I'd imagined the night before. But when I checked the drawer in the hallway, the one where I left the envelope, it was empty. She took it. And that meant she was playing a longer game now. That day, I didn't follow her. I didn't dig through her texts or track her location. I just sat in my car, parked outside a hardware store, holding the steering wheel like it was the last solid thing in my life. I stared at people walking in and out of the automatic doors, picking up garden hoses, light bulbs, duct tape, all the stupid materials of normal people doing normal things. I wanted to scream. Instead, I went home. Around 7 p.m. She came back. Early. No wine. No fake yawns. No muttered long day. Just a single sentence as she walked past me into the living room. We need to talk. I followed her without speaking. She sat on the couch, legs crossed, the envelope beside her like a hostage ransom. You think you know what this is, she said, tapping the papers. But you only know your version of me. I almost laughed. You sent voice memos to your boss at midnight and called last night wild. What version am I supposed to believe? She didn't flinch. Just looked at me. Really looked at me. In a way she hadn't in months. You want to know the truth? I think I already do. No, she said quietly. You don't. And then, in the calmest voice I've ever heard from someone about to burn everything down, she told me her version. It wasn't about Chase. It wasn't about some secret affair she'd been hiding in hotel lobbies and conference calls. It was about me. She said I'd stopped talking to her a year ago. That every conversation felt like a landmine. That I didn't listen when she cried about work, or when her father went to the hospital, or when she hinted she might be depressed, and I shrugged it off as just hormones. She said she met Chase after a panic attack in the bathroom at work. That he sat with her on the floor for an hour, just listening, while I was home playing video games, ignoring 3 of her texts. She said the messages I found were real, but not romantic. That last night was wild. Referred to a bar trivia game where her coworker passed out and Chase had to carry him to an Uber. That the voice memo was her laughing at a stupid meme he showed her. That the photo was taken on a group night out, and the person cropped out of the frame was her friend Rachel. She said she left the phone unlocked on purpose. "I knew you'd look," she said, voice brittle. "I just didn't think you'd twist everything." I wanted to argue. Wanted to scream you still lied, because she had, even if not about cheating. She lied by omission. She lied by silence. She let me spiral instead of telling me the truth. But then she added something else. "I stopped trusting you long before you stopped trusting me." And somehow, that hurt more. She got up, took the envelope, walked upstairs without another word. And I just sat there on the couch, hands in my lap, staring at the spot where she used to sit next to me during movies. Where we used to fall asleep together on Sundays. Where she once cried watching a dumb cartoon because the dog in it reminded her of her childhood pet. Suddenly, none of this felt like a betrayal. It felt like a funeral. And I wasn't sure anymore which one of us had died first. It took me 3 days to speak to her again. Not because I was angry. Not anymore. I was ashamed. Ashamed of the story I'd written in my head. This twisted, paranoid drama where I was the noble victim and she was the villain in lipstick. But it wasn't a story. It was a life. Our life. And I'd let my silence rot it from the inside. That Monday, I found her on the back porch, legs tucked under her, reading a book she never finished last summer. The envelope was gone. Her wine glass was empty. Her face looked tired, but open. I sat down beside her. We didn't talk for a long time. Birds chirped. The wind moved through the trees. Our cat, the one she always forgot to feed, jumped onto the table between us and curled up like nothing was wrong. And I finally said it. "I miss us." She didn't say anything right away. Just looked at me like she was trying to decide whether to open a door or slam it shut. Then she nodded. Just once. Me too. There wasn't some magical apology moment. No passionate hug. No vows to start over. We were still cracked. Still fragile. But something about that moment, the silence, the cat, the book, the 2 empty glasses, felt like the first honest thing between us in months. We made a deal that night. No more spying. No more guessing. If we were going to fall apart, it would be in the open. But if we were going to try, really try, it had to be as 2 people who actually saw each other. Not versions. Not fears. Not projections. Her phone went back to having a password. But she told me what it was. I deleted the tracking app without her asking. She didn't thank me, but she didn't need to. We started talking again. Not about Chase. Not about the past. About boring things. Dinner. Deadlines. Dreams. She told me she was scared too. That she thought I stopped loving her. That she felt invisible. That it wasn't Chase she was drawn to. It was the feeling of being noticed again. I understood that. More than I wanted to. And maybe that's the point. Love doesn't die in explosions. It dies in silence. In missed texts. In eyes that don't meet. In dinners eaten across from each other like strangers. But it can come back. If you dig. If you bleed for it. If you're willing to look at your own ugliness and say, "Yeah, that was me. I did that." We're still not perfect. But last night, she laughed at something I said. Really laughed. And it felt like someone hit play on a part of our life I thought we lost forever. Maybe this isn't a story about betrayal. Maybe it's a story about not giving up, even when it would have been easier to walk away. And if you've read this far, hoping for something dramatic, I'm sorry. Sometimes, the twist isn't revenge. It's repair.